Apparent. Uh,
My bad.
Hello and welcome. Apparently, even though I had no plans for a stream today, some mysterious force beyond my control set up a stream and left it running.
My bad. I apologize, everybody. Yeah, that mysterious force was me. Again, I apologize. I was, I don't know.
You're not used to piloting this thing?
No, I am not used to
So you
piloting
didn't realize that you had set up a stream and it just was waiting to go live?
I went joyriding, yes. I went joyriding on the stream. I do apologize.
Okay, so how many people do we have listening right now? Well, let's see.
Panda Power was on about 5 minutes ago. Oh, yes, Panda Power, we are okay.
So supposedly 5 people are watching, listening, whatever.
Yes. Hi, Owen. Yes, we are alive.
Well, since we had no intent of doing a stream, but you're all here, it would be kind of a dick move not to do anything.
Yeah.
So, Kat, go get a chair.
Yeah.
And, hi. How are you? We're doing okay. We're all fine here. So what'd you think of the Great Big Alien Show last night? Seriously, I'm kind of curious. Funny, stupid, cringe? You tell me. Legitimately curious why anyone would believe the Greys created AIDS? I mean,
shit. Is that the new thing now? We've got Guyver and Gray's creating AIDS.
It was such an out of left field question. It was, huh? What? Where the hell did that come from?
Well, I remember the 90s and all the conspiracy theories on where AIDS came from. I mean, though I don't recall seeing it, I wouldn't doubt it if Sightings did an episode on it. I mean,
Did ancient aliens have sex with dogs to create AIDS? Next on the History Channel.
God.
Did ancient aliens steal JFK's penis? Next on Ancient Alien.
Is that really one?
No.
See, the sad thing is that I do remember that time, and I do remember like weird shit like that being brought up. So it really wouldn't doubt. I wouldn't doubt it if that had been something that they said.
Were the pyramids actually low-rent housing created by lizard men? Next on it.
Again, I'm flashing on World of the Psychic from Ghostbusters 2. We see all these aliens on TV, like from Star Wars or E.T., but then it just turns out that they're some form of lizard.
So wait, Dandy Spike, your stream got really gay at the end, or our stream got really gay at the end?
Like the fun kind of gay?
I don't even remember what we said near the end. I was just answering questions, I think.
We were talking about children. Is that gay?
No, absolutely not. Not even remotely gay. No. Gay people like adults.
Yes, that is true.
That needs to be established, because I've noticed there are a lot of pedos out there on the internet who seem to think they're gay and should be included in the rainbow group. No, they're just sick fucks.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, grown men who think they're women are obviously damaged for the most part. I mean, some of them really are legit. But they don't fuck children.
Actually, okay, this is going to sound really out of left field, but along those lines, I did find it very fascinating that for old school shorts, like from the 50s and 60s, where they would have these videos about delinquents, they did make a very big distinction between, that guy's a homosexual and that guy is a pedophile. They very much so were telling the difference between the two.
Since we collect, and I personally have a huge back catalog of just bizarre videos I find.
Mm-hmm.
All the online services I was using for ripping videos from YouTube have been removed, by the way. So if there's a good online service, or just where I can just go to the website and rip the video that exists right now, let me know, because I can't rip videos anymore. But yeah, I used to just have a habit. If I came across something truly bizarre or amusing or some old footage, I collect it. And then we also collect old shorts.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I noticed is, growing up in the 80s and 90s, especially the 90s, we got all these notions that there was all this 50s propaganda of like gays being the scum of the earth. But when we actually saw the films, the educational and public service announcements,
Mm-hmm.
it was never, there were always the homosexual can't help what he does. He himself is a victim of his disease.
Yeah.
You must pity him, not hate him. It's like, well, at least
it's not a disease, and we are in a more enlightened time as far as that goes.
But yeah, it wasn't quite the blind hatred we were told it was.
No. Well, it's up there with Ed Wood doing Glenn or Glenda.
Glenn or Glenda is a far better adjusted take on cross-dressing than what we have now. I mean, I think, frankly, that you could say if cross-dressers were all like Ed Wood, everyone would like them.
Well, yeah, because at the end of the day, Ed Wood was just a normal person who liked wearing a bra. There's nothing weird about that. Just anyway.
How the hell did we get on this?
Stream of consciousness, the shock of suddenly realizing, oh shit, we need to be on, has brought us to Ed Wood.
Well, okay, granted, we did not expect to go on air.
No.
We've got 15 people in the chat now. Just to report, so if any of you, when did you actually set up this thing?
I set it up at 5:30. It was while I was going to be cooking, while I was barbecuing, and as I said, I was feeling.
And I was asleep.
You were asleep, and I was feeling really depressed, and I thought, well, I'll just hop on and chat with some people while I'm barbecuing, and but I didn't really want to do a big show, and then I thought, that'd be kind of a dick move to go on now when I knew that we weren't going to be on with Buddy and William and John, and I'm like, well, maybe that's not such a good idea, so I decided not to go on. I didn't realize.
So you set up a stream, you left it going for 2 hours. People kept coming in thinking, where the hell is the stream?
I didn't see the notice that people were coming in. It didn't tell me that, so I figured nobody saw it. That I was the only one that knew that.
So for the last 2 hours, people have been wondering what the hell happened. I see that we've, Owen thankfully informed me that people are saying, where the hell are they?
Yeah.
So yeah, Kat opened this up. It was not even planned. This really shouldn't be happening.
No, again, I didn't realize that it was going to sending out an alert to all of you. In fact, so I know for next time. I thank you all for sticking around. So we're on right now for you. And there is a rat in the room.
And make sure he doesn't crap in the corner.
No, I'm going to chase him out.
The thing is our rat does not actually crap in the house unless he's being an asshole and trying to send a message. He knows better. He's actually pretty well behaved that way. But this little bastard, the thing is when you've got an animal that fully understands where they take a shit and where that's not acceptable, if they're smart enough, then they start to use that as a message of, hey, I'm pissed off, little bastard. Or they'll just think it's funny. And yes, rats do have a sense of humor. It's about 7-year-old level humor, by the way. But anyway, just as an FYI, we're probably not going to do the writer's room for about 2 weeks. And it's not... I'm going to miss it, but frankly, it's just we are so overloaded right now. I mean, we can ramble stream of consciousness. That doesn't take any brain cells to do, but to actually talk coherently about writing, I don't think I could do that tonight.
And, we can answer your questions, but
don't expect much.
Well, don't expect well-crafted replies, probably more on the level of, because it's shit, that's why.
And if you're in the room, Elton, now that I'm in the human suit and I'm pretending to be a skeptic again, I can actually explain what I think the Villa Boa case of Brazil is, if you're curious. Um, but I'm not going to tell that story until Elton's in the room, so I don't know if he's around. So let's see what's going on.
Because it is for Elton.
We could do Ancient Aliens. I know quite a bit about that. And again, since I've been in the human suit and I have to pretend I don't believe it, yeah, the science on that stuff is ridiculously bad.
Real quick, Eloise, we were shopping earlier today, and I did see that Walmart is selling the entire run for $40 right now.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, most of that Ancient Aliens originated from Eric von Daniken, and I think von Daniken's protege is that weirdo with the hair.
Oh,
on
yeah.
Ancient Aliens.
Yeah.
And the other one's Zachariah Sitchin. And I think what it was is von Daniken started from a legit premise and then just went to find evidence that could prove him right, confirmation bias.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he couldn't find it, he just started making shit up because he had a book to write. So there's a lot of horribly, horribly just blatant inaccuracies in his books. But it did provide for a lot of good television, including a couple really good original Star Trek episodes, and it was also the basis for Battlestar Galactica, the original series.
Oh.
And maybe a few other things. On the other hand, Zachariah Sitchin either it was a con man or just out of his fucking gourd. Mm-hmm. And his stuff's just flat out incoherent. But it is fun. Let's see. How are you today, Kat?
Me? I'm doing better now than I was earlier. But I'm doing okay. Age Boomer says, I like William Castle movies. Oh, I should know who William Castle is.
Let's make sure. I mean, the weird thing is we're ridiculously well versed in schlock cinema and really good cinema of the 50s and 40s. Not so much the 60s, though. I'm not sure why that is.
Oh, it wasn't until this weekend that I finally saw.
Oh, Lady Shanghai. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, House on Haunted Hill. That's one of your favorites.
Yeah, I love House on Haunted Hill.
Okay, yeah. Good choice,
the,
man.
Producer on that.
Yeah. Let's see. Dillinger. Lady from Shanghai, which we need to own.
Yes.
It's a Small World, Plot Thickens, and Bug. And then he directed more films than we can even read off because there's 67 credits. 13 Ghosts.
Oh, he did the original and the Tingler. Nice.
But yeah, we actually have a real deep love of this kind of stuff.
I think MST did at least one of his films.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Anyway, yeah.
Oh, Undertow. He did Undertow.
Let's see.
I think we have that.
Yeah, Undertow. That was actually a really good noir film.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how a lot of those directors back then would, fluctuate back and forth from these really low-budget westerns or noir films that were just completely amazing pieces of cinema, and then they'd make these wonderfully cheeseball things like The Tingler.
Well, I think in that era, I could be wrong. If any of you know, please correct me. I believe that was the era where the studios made the decisions. Gun. Yeah. You're a hired gun, or it's like, we're doing these films. That's what you have to choose from if you want work.
Oh, kind of like my namesake, Ishiro Honda.
Yeah.
Who is primarily known for making the Godzilla films, but he was a gun for hire, and he did a lot of other stuff, too, that no one heard of.
Exactly.
And he was Kurosawa's second unit director, which nobody seems to really be aware of.
No, they don't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You'll read these like film critics, these snobby guys, and they'll just rail on what a hack this Ishiro Honda guy is for his Godzilla films. They're just so stupid. And then you'll find these film critics will also have written articles years later as like, well, yes, this Ishiro Honda, the second unit director for Kurosawa was such a genius. It's like you realize that's the same guy, right?
Yeah, there are no two Ishiro Hondas.
Or the fact that a lot of those actors in the Godzilla films that they would go on as were horrible actors, then were instantly praised when they were in Seven Samurai or
Oh yeah, definitely.
Rashomon.
Like the I can never remember his name, but the gentleman who played the monk in Seven Samurai.
Yeah, was he also the one that usually played comic relief characters in the Godzilla films?
No, that was a
The
different.
chubby guy with the Hitler stash?
No. He was the one who tended to play, bald characters. He was Yul Brynner's
Oh,
character.
him. Yeah, okay, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Trenton Arnie. Ancient Aliens was a guilty pleasure of mine as well.
Well, the thing about Ancient Aliens, alien lore in general, I mean, recent years it's gotten a little wonky. I am slowly trying to undertake a project that might revive that some. But the cool thing is I think long as you don't take it too seriously,
I'll be right back.
if you take it as a pseudo history, it's a lot of fun. I mean, because you can go through history and you can find unexplained moments or connections that are there. And if you just tweak them ever so slightly, you can create this bizarre lore. And that's one of the reasons I'm so fascinated by the Greys is that the lore that came up around them from starting in the late 60s, 1968, all the way up to, I would say, the 90s, there was a very coherent lore. And the way that lore was formed was this bizarre feedback loop where Hollywood would make a movie, it would influence people, it would enter the public consciousness, people would have experiences that were colored by those movies. The US military would then say, okay, well, these are the things we'll play on. And then they'd start creating propaganda based on that stuff, or they'd even get Hollywood to make the films to set those ideas in people's minds. And that cycle just kept building on itself until you had a very interesting and very coherent lore. Now, I make a lot of shit up and just say a lot of bizarre stuff on the Great Big Alien Show, but the legit.
Don't tell them that.
I'm pretending to be a skeptic right now.
Okay.
This is my accountable.
This is your skeptic face.
Yeah. This is
okay.
Yeah, deniability, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, one of the things that's fascinating is that there was this real back and forth where you'd get cranks or people that had some sort of legit unexplainable experience, and you get their input. But then Hollywood would make these films, and often at the time you'd have very creative people involved. And interestingly enough, then you'd get the Air Force intelligence guys that often would create these really elaborate disinformation campaigns, books, documents, stuff to be found that were historically well researched, and then they would get historians, scientists, and sci-fi writers to write this shit, and they would seed it with real stuff to make it even more confusing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were documents left in a National Library to be found that just stumble across, things like that. And so it's a very interesting mythology that wormed its way into our cultural subconscious. With the internet and the whole reptoid phenomena, it's more crank material. It's not nearly so coherent. But it's fascinating stuff. And the precursor to the lore with the Greys and all that was the Ancient Aliens, because it predates it. And that was a huge deal, I believe, in the 60s and 70s, and had an effect on a lot of sci-fi films. Like I said, Battlestar Galactica, Von Daniken's Ancient Aliens and Mormonism were the basis for that series.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, there were a few really good Star Trek episodes. I'm trying to remember the one where they run into Apollo.
Oh, yeah.
That is a direct reference to Von Daniken's writings.
What about 2001 and Childhood's End?
No, not so much.
No.
I think they influenced Von Daniken.
Oh, okay.
I'm not quite an expert on 2001, but there is a lot of weird shit around that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a fun one in itself. I might eventually do a deep dive into that someday when I have time to go down that rabbit hole. But there's a fair amount of reason to believe it was a propaganda piece from the U.S. government.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, actually, I think positive and good propaganda, because I mean, it was kind of very reaffirming, and humans can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And there is such a thing as positive and positive reinforcement propaganda.
No, there is.
I mean, the day the Earth stood still was made specifically to be that. And it's interesting that our CIA would create a film that pushed for peace on the eve of the Korean War, which I find very interesting.
Very much so.
The director, Robert Wise, who made The Day the Earth Stood Still, was actually an operative for the CIA and part of their... I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great director and he's a legit director and he made a lot of good films, but he did do some films with the CIA as part of their program to spread propaganda to the public that was primarily intended to keep public unity and optimism, and essentially it was kind of post-war, we want to keep stability and we don't want us to go down where we are now.
Well, then with that said, what do you think of the rebuttal piece to The Day the Earth Stood Still?
I love it.
Which is, for those of you who may not know,
It Conquered the World.
Yeah, It Conquered the World. Which, don't let the fact that it's a Roger Corman film...
Despite the avocado monster, that's a good film.
Yeah, it's an amazingly good film.
Actually,
with Lee Van Cleef and
did you know that's
Beverly Garland?
That's one of John Carpenter's favorite films.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
And the interesting thing is, in The Day the Earth Stood Still, it was very much a Christ metaphor. The alien comes down, he lives among men. Then he kind of, there's the biblical reference of the the earth stood still.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who haven't seen this, the film, essentially technology stops for 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then Klaatu, the alien, dies. He's taken back to his saucer, regenerated, and comes back to life. And
well, specifically, he is killed by those who persecute him and don't understand his message.
And he tells humanity, clean up your act, and you need, we're watching you. You need to move beyond war and division. But then he also says, and I'm leaving this killer robot here.
Yeah. And it's going to make sure that you behave.
And if you go too far, I mean, you guys are going to keep doing what you're doing. But if you take this war stuff too far, the robot's going to annihilate you.
Yeah.
And as a rebuttal to that, there was a film, a much, much lower budget film by Roger Corman, or he did he direct it?
He didn't direct it. He produced it. I don't recall who directed it.
Let me get the... But it was called It Conquered the World, and it's primarily remembered for a really cheesy monster from Venus.
Yeah, the Venetians are... Venusians.
Not Venetian. That's a different thing.
Yeah,
they make blinds.
Yes. Well, no, I have heard people of that era call them Venetians.
No, they're Venusians.
Yes, Venusians. But the Venusians are definitely cheesy as shit. But... besides the fact that...
there was one. It was the last of his race because his flawed ideology had wiped them out, and he'd come to Earth.
No.
No.
They had an invasion force lying in wait.
We need to watch it.
He was one, and I believe there were two.
Corman did direct it.
Oh, Corman did direct it. Okay. He was the one assigned to Earth. And there were two more that were on their way, and it was an invasion force similar to H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, where their planet was dead or dying, and they wanted to come take over Earth.
But the interesting thing is there's a lot of parallels to the Day the Earth Stood Still in It Conquered the World. But the difference is that it shuts down technology, and it's essentially sending its ultimatum, and it's speaking through one person, played by Lee Van Cleef, and he does a great job on it.
He does an amazing job.
Opposite Peter Graves.
Yes.
Who, you know what? while not the actor Lee Van Cleef is, I think Peter Graves was kind of underrated.
Well, I think that was a great role for Peter Graves because he needed to be the stoic everyman, and so his sometimes wooden performance was actually perfect, where it really was not appropriate for films like Killers from Space.
Yeah, okay, I agree. So anyway, in It Conquered the World, one human, played by Lee Van Cleef, has been communicating with this alien, and he's become indoctrinated with this utopian vision that the alien sold him. And he almost sells out humanity, but the point is, at the very end, they kill the alien. And unlike The Day the Earth Stood Still, where it was clean up your act or the robot's going to kill you, this was no, we got to do it ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
No great alien god can come down and police us with a death threat. We got to do it ourselves. If we don't choose our own destiny, if we don't grow up on our own, it's meaningless.
Well, I think the other thing about It Conquered the World, which
it was very anti-communist.
It's very anti-communist, and I think the message is it very much so. Not to get too into current politics.
Well, it was very much about how communism dehumanizes people.
Well, the fact that Lee Van Cleef is very aware of the fact that people's rights are being taken away from them. They're being locked in their homes. The police force has been dismantled because it, quote, isn't needed anymore.
And then once enough people have been indoctrinated through mind control,
yeah,
they start rioting.
Yeah, they start rioting. Not only that, but he knows for a fact that people are dying in the streets, and his reasoning is well, they've got wrongthink. So therefore, it's okay.
He's also, well, a few people are going to need to die for utopia.
Yeah, and he doesn't really realize what it is he's doing until his own wife takes up arms against this world that he's trying to build and goes out there on her own.
Yeah. Okay. You want Beverly Garland.
Oh, Beverly Garland.
Her playing off Van Cleef was so good in that film.
They were a perfect couple.
But
they really were.
Who thought you were going to get a movie review tonight?
Yeah.
But yeah, you're always, you didn't have any strong women until last year in film. In that movie, Beverly Garland plays Van Cleef's wife.
Mm-hmm. Who the entire time she's trying to reason with him, try to speak logic to him, try to point out to him the flaws in his thinking, and tit for tat, he keeps coming back at her with the rhetoric.
And when she can't get through to him, she picks up a rifle, goes down to where the monster is, and even though she fails, she tries to kill it.
Yeah.
So you want a strong female character who's believable.
Mm-hmm. And it's her sacrifice that, spoiler alert, it's her sacrifice that makes him realize, I done fucked up.
I always thought that film could be done really well as a remake if done by the right person.
It can't be anybody who's currently in Hollywood.
Yeah, it can't be woke. I mean, it's an anti-communist film. It's a very, very pro-human free will responsibility.
Actually finding out that that's one of John Carpenter's favorites.
Oh, yeah, he was very libertarian.
No, it makes me sad because of how good he did with The Thing.
Oh, if he don't, oh yeah, you're right.
Can you imagine if he had remade it? I mean, it would, just like with The Thing from Outer Space, it'd be a completely different film, but that's okay.
And, Carpenter did do one of the best movies ever about alien mind control being the metaphor for authoritarians.
Oh, they live?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As people are saying right now, you've got to put the glasses on, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Stop fighting and put the glasses on.
Choke down that red pill and put on the glasses.
I didn't know this, but the guy who wrote It Conquered the World.
He did She Creature
too?
Yeah,
another good movie.
God, She Creature's great. It's like, it's Lovecraftian before anybody knew the term.
So, yeah.
Oh, dude. Okay.
Does that kind of change your opinion of it even more?
Well, I wouldn't say change my opinion.
But just to find out he wrote those both.
Yeah, just make it cooler. Because it's now not a film in the void that Mystery Science Theater covered. It actually makes me, knowing that I want to see it without Mystery Science Theater now, because is there stuff that they had to cut for time or whatever? I mean, it's from a Mike era, so I know it wasn't butchered. But sorry, guys, Joel would butcher the films when they put them on. I'm sorry, but he did. Mike didn't.
No, see, that's the thing. I'm pissed that I cannot get a DVD or Blu-ray of It Conquered the World. There is not one in existence.
There's not.
The only way you can get that film right now
Mhm.
is through the MST3K version.
I bet I could find it.
If you can find it, I mean, I've been wanting a good copy without them ripping on it, and you know they cut it short,
Yeah.
so there's missing scenes.
Well, no, I know for a fact that I've seen it in some of those like dollar bin box sets where it's like 100 sci-fi movies for like
Oh,
$10.
Yeah, okay. If you see it, grab it.
I'm sure I've seen it in one of those. So,
But you know, that film really does deserve a remaster.
no, it does. Excuse me, Elias. We're gonna talk about anime titties this time, and or any titties at all.
We can do that.
We can talk about anime titties.
Let me get to a few other topics, and we'll go there.
How about the ones in Wicked City?
Anyway,
those are anime titties.
That is one hell of a deal. That is one hell of a deal, Dandy Spike. Are they Blu-ray?
Nice.
That is one of the best anime series ever made.
Get it, grab it, keep it forever.
Rub it against your chest at night.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Use some lube. Anyway. Looking. Trenton, my favorite part was how every season saw that crazy-haired guy getting crazier and crazier hair. See, I am sad. I think by the time this show was on, we had stopped getting television.
Who?
The Ancient Aliens.
Oh, yeah,
show.
his hair just kept getting crazier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen pictures.
Yeah, because I know, because I have a feeling I would have loved this show. RiffTrax did House on Haunted Hill. I know I have it. I got it when they originally came out, and then when they did the box set, when they colorized it, I got that as well.
The one where it doesn't have commentary, it's just the movie.
Well, you can have both.
Yeah.
So you can play it without the commentary, or you can play it with. So I have it with. So I purchased it multiple times because I had to do it, and he hates it, but I absolutely love them doing. Carnival of Souls.
No, I like House on Haunted Hill, and you know that's one of the shames about the fact that there aren't many shows anymore like MST3K, because even though they ripped on the films, we got introduced to so many classics that are, sure they're B movies. There were so many films like this is actually pretty good, like
Ilya Muromets.
Well, yeah, the Russian films, but I meant the noir supernatural.
Tormented.
Tormented, yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a good movie.
Yeah, it is. It's a classic noir.
But yeah, Kat got introduced to Haunted Hill. We both did from the RiffTrax version. It was like, hey, wait a minute, this is good.
Well, no, I had actually caught Haunted Hill on late night cable and absolutely loved it. And when I saw that RiffTrax was doing it, it's like sign me up.
Tormented.
And I loved their routine so much I got it twice.
And I can't get through Carnival of Souls, and it's not because it's a bad movie. I know it's a classic, actually. It's the music. There's something about the music that just drives me up the goddamn wall. I cannot sit through it.
The endless organ music.
Yeah, it just it's like sitting next to a roller rink or an ice rink or something. It's just.
Yo, Ishi, I'm thinking of getting Snow Crash as a better alternative to Ready Player One and as an inspiration for a samurai guitarist character I had. Not bad, huh?
Snow Crash is definitely considered one of the staples. It's kind of the post-cyberpunk or the second wave of cyberpunk. I thought it was a little too much parody or self-aware parody for my liking, but I know that it is definitely really up there. And that's not a criticism of the book. It just wasn't for me. Ready Player One's garbage. This is no other. It's woke garbage. It's hipster woke garbage. And if you want something that's similar but good, get Nick Cole's Soda Pop Soldier.
Yes.
Similar idea, much better executed.
Well, Nick actually has a love for the genre. Aged Boomer, do you like to collect DVDs and Blu-rays? Which are your favorites? Oh my God, there's a laundry list there. Are you talking movies, television, or both? And then in what genre? The short answer is yes. As far as which are our favorites, I don't know. What are our favorites? There are too many.
What?
Favorite DVDs or Blu-rays?
Oh,
And then the question, for my question is are we talking television or movies?
we could
and then
do
what
it. We
genre?
could do a show of top 10.
Okay,
Or no, that'd take too long. Top 5 for each of us.
we can do top 5. Now, again, what?
I'd have to think about it though.
And again, are we splitting it from television shows that we have, movies, both together? Are we counting anime as its own genre or in the genre of the story that's being told?
We'll discuss it later.
We'll discuss it. Okay.
I don't think that's really riveting listening right now.
No, we're baiting them. We're giving them teasers as to what we will talk about, and we are inviting their feedback. Squeaky Pickle. So is Ishiro your real name, your middle name, or is it more like a pen name?
It's the middle name. The first name, Josh, okay, to be honest with you, I never liked it to begin with. I mean, I just never liked it, and I don't even want to get into why I was named it, because...
See his episode about his family.
Yeah. It was a family decision to keep certain people happy. But on top of that...
Not the way you would think.
Yeah. But anyway, the other thing is that I figured, okay, I'm Josh Finney. Fuck it. I'll just go by Josh Finney. I hate my name. And I really should have thought that through. If there was one choice I could have done different through my entire career was to have just gone by J.Ishiro from the start. And that's why I much prefer you just call me Ishiro Ishi from now on. How do I put this? Okay. One, the name's more recognizable. But more importantly, I found out I had a big obstacle in my career that had been really hamstringing me. You see, I write sci-fi and horror. And Josh Finney and Jack Finney are very, very close. And when you write it into Amazon or Google, often the autofill will change Josh Finney to Jack Finney, because Jack Finney, also an author, is one of the most successful sci-fi horror authors of the mid to late 20th century, known primarily for writing Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So it was like, I can't even imagine how many searches and sales I had lost because people got Jack Finney instead of me when they punched my name into the search engine.
So this is a lesson to you for all you aspiring authors out there. Not only is the title of your book and the art that you pick for the cover, something that you need to consider, you also need to consider what name you're going to go by, because unfortunately, sometimes your own name really isn't the best.
Yeah, for instance, if you were born Steve King, change your name.
Yeah, use
your middle name, use a pen name, make some shit up, but if your name's Steve King, no, that's not so good.
No, lessons here. We are getting into writing.
Yeah. Or if your name's Eric Hemingway.
Yeah. E. Hemingway. Like, yeah.
And since we're giving advice on search engines, writers, it's an old tradition, I understand it, to name your stories after songs. It's just a thing, and I believe it's because it's one of the things we writers can't really put into our stories is audible sound. And, we can't really put the audible music. So if you name a book after it, it kind of gives the notion of, okay, this is the sound of my book. The problem is in the days of search engines, well, let's just say if you name your book Sympathy for the Devil and somebody does a search for it on Amazon, they're not going to get your book.
They're going to get the song and everybody else who named his book Sympathy for the Devil.
And so, really, if you're attached to a song and you want it to somehow tie into the title, using Sympathy for the Devil, for instance, it would be more sensible to use a lyric instead. So maybe name the book "Hope You Guess My Name," something like that.
It went down to Georgia.
Yeah, well, yeah. If the song was, yeah, exactly. And that's just my advice. So yeah, I think if I had known what I do now back in 2007, I probably would be better known.
Well, every day, 1 foot forward.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're helping others.
And it's like, look, you got a cool middle name. Why the hell didn't you use it? Duh. No, seriously, I think that is the dumbest fucking thing I ever did was just say, oh, I'm Josh, okay.
Oh.
I mean, I don't even like that name.
Actually.
So yes, call me Ishiro or Ishi, because I really don't like my first name.
Well, I remember at the time we had that discussion, and it was ultimately decided no because you didn't want the cultural appropriation Nazis after you.
Yeah, actually, I didn't want to play the race game. That is
Yeah.
precisely why I originally didn't do it. And
Mhm.
you know, what it was even as far back as 2007, there was the whole cultural appropriation or oh well, you're representing an ethnicity now, you need to live up to this. And that just really,
well, it's like everybody who is using the last name of like Hernandez or
oh
whatever.
yeah, suddenly, if you like, for instance, in writing, if you've got a Hispanic last name, you're instantly going to have the woke crowd expecting things from you, and if you don't do it, you're a race traitor. And you're likely to get draw fire for it,
and
which is ridiculous. So I just felt, fuck it. I'm not going to play off on any ethnic crap. I just want my books to sell on their own merit.
So, yeah. Owen, those film critics can go suck a big fat rotten egg for all I care. They're just glorified shills that pretend they know everything on film. For the vast majority of them, yeah. I mean, there's good critics online, but yeah, pretty much. Trenton, I find it funny that Mormons have gotten into sci-fi like Starship Troopers and The Expanse.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about Mormonism and sci-fi, but a lot of Mormons like science fiction, and a lot of Mormons create science fiction. And I don't know if Glenn A. Larson, who created both Battlestar Galactica, Knight Rider, he had a hand in Magnum, but he didn't create it. The guy created a lot of shows, but I find it interesting that his great big space epic really was Ancient Aliens meets the Book of Mormon.
Well, it made good television.
And I know it's blasphemy to a lot of people, but I just can't read Orson Scott Card. I just couldn't get into it. He's a good writer. I just couldn't get into it.
Ender's Game, I was required to read it for school, and it was hit or miss with me. I really liked Speaker for the Dead because it genuinely seemed to be Card himself dealing with his own being torn between Catholicism and Mormonism, and just him dealing with things himself. And so it was more of a personal journey. Plus, it had some really neat concepts as far as aliens go that I hadn't seen before at that time in my life. The third book turned me off on the rest of them. I finished it because it was one of those things where it was a page turner for the wrong reasons. It was a page turner because I wanted to see how deep the rabbit hole of crazy bordering on offensive got with him. And then I'm like, okay, I can't read anymore. I don't regret reading them, though. They've actually, the most forgettable of the three was Ender's Game. The other two have stuck in my head ever since.
Oh wow, I stand corrected. Oh, by the way, Dandy Spike, have you seen Six String Samurai? Anyway, you know what? Yeah, you're right, John Walsh. I just checked. Yeah, Chariots of the Gods came after that episode of Star Trek,
And 2001.
which in the episode I was speaking of is Who Mourns for Adonis.
Oh.
So I wonder if Von Doniken ripped it off.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, then there are the ancient astronauts that put the Ark of the Covenant in the Middle East in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you can tell because there's R2 and 3PO on the wall.
So anyway,
LK, you realize Twilight is just Book of Mormon with vampires and werewolves, right? Actually, I had not heard that.
I knew she was a Mormon, but is there crossover? I mean,
I thought that was it. The Host was. Of course, I also thought The Host was a parable for Scientology too. So The Host was awful. Stephen Walsh. No, I didn't read it. I just saw the movie. Stephen Walsh. Just change your name to Ishiro Strong Black Woman, and you're all set.
I think I should. It would be Ishiro Strong Black Woman, formerly a man.
Formerly a man
Would be the one I need.
Ma'am.
It's ma'am. So okay, so we've torn through the current comments that.
By the way, hi John.
So anime titties.
Yes, I already mentioned one.
So we're going to discuss titties and anime titties as requested by the audience. So.
Okay, and is this like a
look? You guys
like
are going
coconuts where it's big ones,
there
small
was
ones,
absolute.
as big as your head?
I'm going to repeat. There was absolutely no intention for us to go on the air. This is strictly a mistake. So you're going to get some weird comments. I'm just saying.
I think
we really
they're
shouldn't
used to
be
our
on
weird
air.
Comments by now. I think they're used to our weird comments. So, like, again, what type of anime titties? I mean, usually when you put the word anime in front of something, you're looking for something that's weird or odd. You know, like, again, like Wicked City, where you have melty titties. Or are we talking like in Danzig's movie where her nipples are eyeballs and they cry?
Explain to the audience.
For those of you who don't know, Danzig did a movie. Crap, what's it called? I don't remember what it's called.
Necrotic.
Necrota. That's what it is. Yeah, Necrota.
No, necrotic, isn't it?
No, it's A because it's her name.
Necrotica or something.
Yeah, it's Necrotica or Necrota or something, word like that. And there's a million and one things that are just wrong about this film, but the one I'm mentioning is it's an anthology story, and one of the stories in the anthology is about this girl who is either half or full demon, I'm not entirely sure, with horrible French accent, who bemoans the fact that she can't get a guy because her nipples are actually eyeballs. And when she cries, they cry. But the tears that they cry make giant spiders.
Well, they fell on the corpse, and the corpse turned into a spider demon.
Yeah.
That raped somebody.
Yeah.
Danzig's got problems.
And I think she wound up finding true love with the spider corpse demon thing. And it kind of sounds metal, but it was not metal. It was just sad. It was very sad in a nipple crying way.
Veronica. Yep.
Veronica. There you go.
So.
Thank you, Zen Man.
I would say the thing about anime titties, coming through the 80s, they were there when they were noticeable. And then through the 90s, you started getting some realism in the drawings. And then something happened in the 2000s that we've hit now this point where there is just this genre of epic titties. I don't really even know what to say. I mean, they are epic. It's like they have minds of their own.
Some of them they do.
I like Noi.
No, he's not. Well, we haven't seen the anime for that yet. You mean that's manga?
Manga. Okay, yeah.
But like there's Iria. how her tits were nice, and then you had Slayers where the MacGuffin was the titties and everything, and how the fact that what was her name, Lena? Yeah, Lena. What compelled her character to always try to be the best at everything was because she had the smallest tits in the land and everybody knew it, and we're constantly berating her over the fact that she had the smallest tits everywhere. Dandy Spike, there's a breast debate in the world Japanese animation. Should breasts be round like they're being held by a bra, or should they be sagging a little too to be natural? What's your thoughts?
Well, as a connoisseur of such knockers of all kinds, real and drawn, I am of the mind that there should be an array of sizes. The one thing I always disliked about a lot of comics, for instance, is after a while you noticed every female had the exact same cloned body type, which I never really cared for. If you're going to have an array of hot women, have the ones that, the women that do have those just round, very round, almost bowling ball knockers. And then you can have the woman who has the implants and they're, really just defy gravity and stick straight out. And then you can have like the woman who has the teardrop shaped ones with the pointy nipple. I mean, really, you should just go all out. An array of sizes.
Reminds me of Asamangadayo, where they're getting ready to, I believe, get into an onsen. And an onsen is it's a bathhouse. It's a public bathhouse. And they're all getting undressed. And it's a bunch of girls. I think there's 7 of them. And they all immediately start comparing breast sizes because that's perfectly fine. And one of the characters likes to name the breast size off of what the average size is for various countries. And so they immediately were asking her, hey, Osaka, what country are my breasts? What country are my breasts? And they're all holding them up for her to examine. And she examines them. She does with a very critical eye. And it's like,
isn't Osaka supposed to be kind of the one who's...
She's the hick.
She's just very... No irony, just she's going to give you the exact honest truth.
Yeah, well, Osaka is the oddball who is kind of the autist. She's the one who, when you see her head kind of bobbing, it's not that she's listening to the music in her head. She's literally chasing the bubbles inside her eyeballs. So she scrutinizes every tit and says, it's like, yes, you're Japan and you're this and you're that. And then this one girl comes up to her with, rather large ones. And she says, so, what nationality am I? And she, of course, has the largest ones of the group. And Osaka, without even missing a beat, says, American. I've been trying to find that section, like just that little slice of the anime online, but nobody has it. I find that one of the most hilarious things.
But just getting down to the point, and I will repeat this one more time. It's not just big tits that are nice. You should have an array of different shapes because they don't all come in one shape.
Oh, I agree. But, well, not to be too arrogant. Yes, they should. Gravity should definitely have sway on them, but they should still be firm and hold their shape.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they look fake. And by fake, I mean...
Oh, you mean the ones where they look like they're bolted to her chest?
Yeah, where they're bolted to their chest, or just if they constantly look like they're in a bra and they're not, it doesn't matter what size they are unless they're really small, they're not going to look right. It's just something in the brain is going to say there's something wrong with these. And so therefore they should still have a little hang, a little heft. You should definitely be able to tell if they are in the bra or not.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I will be very blatant and be upfront. No shame here. I was very, very careful and choosy about who I had sex with when I was younger. No, the number is not very high, and that's intentional. But just because I didn't have sex with a whole lot of women doesn't mean that I didn't do a bunch of other stuff. And let me tell you, I did have my hands and face in a lot of titties. I mean, this was the time of AIDS, so the '90s. I don't think you kids realized just how horrifying that was, and just how much they were trying to scare the shit out of us in school. So, for our teenage hormones, well, we were definitely going to be extremely well, the smart ones were going to be choosy and very, very careful about who they slept with. There seemed to be a more eager and willingness to go, well, okay, well, at least we can do these things. And I guess that just girls were very willing to take their tops off at the time.
Well, girls were just as horny.
Yeah. So yes, and I can honestly say, yes, they come in all shapes, and you really should put that in the comics.
Yes.
I want to see that in more comics.
Strangely enough, it was not any, unless you went to a fine art school to learn drawing. The only place I ever found that in any books was in the How to Draw Manga books, where one of them, where it's How to Draw Pretty Girls, had an entire section entirely on the different types of breasts and their size, and how small ones hung versus large ones, and the pull on gravity, and like I was talking before, how to make sure they kept their shape yet still showed that they had heft to them. Nothing other than my fine art classes ever covered any of that. And with fine art, it was more, this is how you depict it. It didn't get into the nitty gritty bolts about it.
But also come in retrospect, though. While I'm sure as a teenager looking back, I probably would have wanted to take advantage of a number of opportunities I could have had to sleep with girls when I was a teen. In looking back, I'm glad the number isn't very high. I think in the long run, I'm kind of glad that I didn't go down the path some people I know did.
For various reasons.
Yeah, it just, in retrospect, doing everything but was probably the right choice and kept me out of a lot of trouble.
Wow.
No, seriously, it just, I don't know. Once you do that, you cross kind of a line and...
Well, feeling a girl up is not going to give you an STD or pregnant.
Yeah, nude wrestling.
Yeah, no, it's safe.
Running around the house naked. Yeah, none of that's going to get you pregnant or disease,
Yeah. Oh, and today I found out there's going to be an indie film called Habit. It's another hot take on Christianity where Jesus is a woman now played by Michael Jackson's daughter, Paris. Oh, Lord.
That sounds like trying too hard to the nth degree.
Yeah. Eesh.
Why? I bet that's going to be one of those films that's either going to be so bad it becomes a classic, like, Ed Wood or Reefer Madness.
Kurt Cameron?
No, I mean, I'm thinking it's probably going to be like at Plan 9 level bad and become famous, or people are going to see it and just pretend it never happened.
Yeah, actually, let's be honest, it's probably what's going to happen. Wolf, ever heard of...
Well, it could become the next Sharknado.
It could. Ever heard of Ekin? That anime was wild. Girls of various sizes, harem dudes, suggestive competing sports, and titillation abroad. No.
I haven't heard of it, but
Okay.
I will keep that in mind.
Very cool.
I think the only thing that I currently own and have that fits into the ecchi genre was Don't Meddle with My Daughter.
Dragon Half.
Oh, is that ecchi?
I'd call it ecchi.
I don't remember any.
They're running around in bikinis.
Yeah, but do they have giant boobs?
Yes. Mink has giant boobs. The problem is that the animation style continually fluctuates.
Oh, yeah. They're kind of super deform.
They can be. They flip around. But there's a scene where her metal bra gets shattered, and she flashes her nips at the audience.
I need to see that again. I haven't seen it in about a decade.
And she even gets teased for the fact that she did a nip flash. Anime acid trip. Ishi is a tits master. Also, holy shit, Kat has seen Azumanga Daioh.
She
Yes,
kind
I
of was
have.
obsessed with it for a while
It
there.
was hilarious.
You just pull them up at random when you were bored.
Well, Andrew got me onto them, so. Trenton, when it comes to breasts, I have been told anything more than a mouthful is a waste. Oh, I'm sorry,
Well,
dude.
that's whoever. Well, I'm sorry she told you that.
Yeah. Breasts are like tits. You want more than a mouthful.
I mean, more than a mouthful.
Breasts are like dicks. That's what I meant. I landed bad on my joke.
Frankly, I'm of the opinion that small ones can be nice if they're very well shaped. Big ones can be great. But you know what? There is such a thing as never being too much of a good thing. Or too much of a good thing can be wonderful.
I can think of some instances where both tits and dicks too much can be a good thing, but I still stand by you want more than a mouthful.
No, it's the was it the Mae West quote?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, too much of a good thing is wonderful.
Yes.
So let's see.
Victoria, if you were a spy, what will you be? What will be your spy name and gadget?
What would be my spy name and gadget?
Now, would you be a name or a number?
I would be undercover alien.
Undercover alien.
And my gadget would be a human suit. a human suit that I get into and telepathically pilot.
Go gadget human suit.
Yes. With interchangeable parts.
With interchangeable parts. Oh, strangely enough, that is something that I never thought of. I suppose I'd probably have to go the 007 route and have some weird number. But then again, I do like The Prisoner, and I am not a number. So
tell them about Agent from Harm.
Oh, Agent for Harm.
Do you want Monster or water?
Oh, juice, please. Ishi is getting us beverages, and I am supposed to tell you about Agent for Harm. Oh God. Those of you who have seen Mystery Science Theater will have seen Agent for Harm. Harm is supposed to be like the budget uncle. In that our hero, Adam Chance, is supposed to be the secret spy who has been tasked with securing a German defect. Here's the problem with Agent for Harm. The plot's actually somewhat confusing because I think he's supposed to be a German or Austrian scientist who is working for the Russians to develop a deadly fungus. And he defects and comes to the United States, but he does it in a really stupid way and winds up in San Onofre, California, which you wouldn't think that there would be, hick towns right on the ocean in California. But there are. And in the 60s to 70s, one of those places was San Onofre because nobody but drug dealers and hicks would want to live that close to a nuclear power plant. And I'm sorry, I'm pausing because this film, I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe this film. It really, really is trying to convince you, the audience, that interesting things are happening. But they're not, because all the interesting things that do happen, all of the real risks, all of the real spy stuff happens to everybody but our hero, Adam Chance. The German risks his life and limb to make sure that his invention doesn't fall into the wrong hands, even sacrificing his life in order to make sure that doesn't happen. You have the sexy spy girl who is masquerading as his niece, who is put there to sweet talk the old man, seduce Adam, and steal the formula. She's out there doing really all the work, and of course, we wouldn't have a movie if she succeeded, but she's the one who's doing all the real work. She puts herself at risk constantly. We have the bad guys who have a plant where they're trying to make this this highly contagious spore, and they're trying to mass produce it like it's ricin or anthrax out in the hills by San Onofre. And they're doing this without hazmat suits, without anything resembling a clean room. They don't even have dish gloves to handle this stuff. And so all of these guys, are going to die if they don't get shot at one time or another. I mean, the only thing Adam does at all at any point through this whole thing is he does a background check on the spy girl. That's it. That's the only thing he does.
I love the part where the villains were cooking up biological weapons in a crock pot.
Yes, it is a crock pot.
It literally is a crock pot, and they've got serving spoons.
And they've got ladles, and I'm not kidding. They don't even have like rubber gloves that you use to do dishes while they're handling this shit.
I think you do, Wolf Media. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Let's see.
In this nocturne, AIDS fear-mongering. That explains why California legalized intentionally spreading AIDS without informing a partner. Yeah, that's fucked up. That is thoroughly and completely fucked up.
The thing was, at one time, that was murder.
Yeah, that was considered
murder.
That was
considered murder if you did that intentionally.
Oh, but you're dehumanizing people by turning them into bioweapons. It's like, I'm sorry if you have. Many people can't go to the grocery store right now without wearing a biosuit because of COVID, but it's perfectly legal to have sex with your partner without a condom and not tell them that you've got God fucking AIDS.
Yeah. It's just sick.
Like, what?
Dandy Spike, I'm Gen X. I'm not a millennial. When I heard the word fuckboy back in the 90s, it was a reference to what one gay man would call his younger, pretty trophy boyfriend.
Like a rent boy?
Yeah, so I would never want to be one of those. I have a feeling that you're meaning something else.
Acid Trip, Kat, who is best girl in Azumanga Daioh? For me, Osaka or Yukari are up there. Osaka, definitely Osaka. I loved Osaka. And for the American version, I believe it's the same woman dubbing her as an elfin lead. Which I'm glad I saw it because now I get the references, but really it was not one of my favorite animes. Zen Man, the 90s was pretty depraved, but like my dad told me since I was 4 years old, always use a condom.
Actually, I don't know if I can agree with that. I mean, depraved and compared to what? I mean, at the time, there was a lot of media coverage just portraying Gen X as just stupid and a bunch of losers and depraved, yes. But statistically speaking, Gen X, even in their youth, did a hell of a lot less drugs than their parents did then and now. Back then, we did a lot less drugs than our parents ever did. And apparently, even now as adults, we're doing less drugs than our parents are doing right now. We actually had a lot more monogamy and safe sex than our parents did. and generations to follow. And I believe for alcoholism wasn't necessarily considered a trophy.
See, my view is I agree with him about the 90s being depraved.
Really?
Yeah, and this is why. You are absolutely correct. Gen X and early Gen Y,
Yeah.
we're getting them.
Now, the thing is, it's unfair because there's that Gen Y and the millennial thing. They're different. They're totally different.
No, I know they're different. But what I mean is, we did get the message hammered into us. Thank you to G.I. Joe and other
And He-Man.
and He-Man and other cartoons. Yeah, because we were all raised on television. It wasn't our parents. We did get the message, wrap it up if you're going to have sex, but just plain don't have sex. That sex can kill. We got all the after school specials and everything about AIDS and all the other horrible things that can happen to you, along with don't do drugs, had drugs crammed down our throats at every fucking turn. So so even though as we got older, we were able to view it more maturely, you're absolutely right. We didn't engage with a lot of that shit. Our parents, on the other hand, our parents are the ones who they're all going through divorces. They're all discovering key parties. They all are having this like renaissance where they're.
And by the way, we're describing what it was like in California.
Yeah.
I cannot say for the rest of the country.
No.
This was Southern California.
Yeah, this is Southern California. They're basically discovering, hey, wait a minute. At one time I was 20 years old. I want to return to that. And they did have indiscriminate sex. They were going around, being wild and doing all this other stuff. And it was a lot of depravity, but then they turn around and tell their kids, oh, don't do this. So I agree. It's just it wasn't our generation, so we're doing it.
Like my little brother, he knew the one guy at school selling coke, and he says, "Oh yeah, well, he steals it from his dad."
Yeah.
And his dad was a lawyer.
Yeah.
Living in a very rich neighborhood.
So yeah. Wolf 10. Coincidentally, I want to do a fan art of Dragon Half with Cat as Mink. Oh my god, that'd be so cute. Thank you. I love that. I like mink. Trenton. I also had a boss that said he wants him big enough that he can pop one in his mouth and the other in his ear and take a nap.
Yeah, that's actually a great experience.
Cooper, I can picture a spy show with you two. Agent Gray and his trusty alien space gun grappling hook womanizing device. James Bond, eat your heart out. You would kind of be an Archer type.
Would I?
Yeah. Sarcastic.
I don't know if this is a good comment here, but I'll accept it, I guess.
No, I mean, not the womanizing part, but the... being sarcastic and being a savant.
Oh, horribly socially inept, but is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll accept that.
Trenton, as a kid, I lived near there. We called the plant the Dolly Partons because it's two round domes with caps that look like nipples. And John. To Eloise, Doddle Sci-Fi requires a giant snake to be in everything it airs now, including the news and weather, if it did those. I hate sci-fi. Wolf 10. I learned not to do drugs from Dare commercials. Dare, that's the thing. If you had a good Dare officer, Dare was awesome. Most of the time, we had shit Dare people coming. They were required to do so. And, nothing against them. I appreciate them being there. I felt like they were hamstrung on what they could tell us because at the time I was going to the private school. But the second I went to public school, oh man, the Dare officer was awesome. He'd say, I'm not going to preach to you kids. I'm just going to tell you stories of guys I busted. Endless. I hate generational names. Sociologists don't have a solid time period for each, so cross studies are a mesh of hot garbage.
Well, to be honest with you, sociology hasn't really been a legit soft science for a very long time, if ever. I mean, if there was ever any real legitimacy to sociology, I would say after the 60s, it just went right down the toilet into complete propaganda.
Before the 60s, sociology actually was a legitimate science.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It was like the gateway to the whole woke thing where nobody's an individual, everyone's a set of classifications.
Mm-hmm.
And I always felt that was pretty demeaning. And the concept of generation itself meant something different before the 50s. And that's why often a lot of these generational names don't really stick for past generations as well before Boomer. And the reason being is that after the war, we entered a period of an incredible prosperity. And there was more wealth in America than at any time in history. You always hear these feminists bitching about the horrid slavery of the 1950s, where all women were chained to their homes. You know, what was it? Barred from opportunity in life. They couldn't have careers, which is ridiculous because the idea that the wife could stay home at all was something only rich people could afford prior to that. You look through American history, especially in the Industrial Revolution or farming. During farming, the women were out there with a baby strapped to them, picking crops. I mean, it wasn't like they were at home, slaving over children. The child was attached to them.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Industrial Revolution, there is no shortage of women living and dying within factories,
Mm-hmm.
At looms or whatever, or children being chained to machines. So this idea that, women were confined to the house and refused to have the wonders of a job. No, that was kind of a reward of the 1950s was, hey, you can, even the average common man with only a high school diploma and a factory job can afford to let his wife stay home and raise their children. That was a luxury. And the feminists really fucked that up, didn't they? That was such a rarity. But anyway, because there was so much wealth, it also meant that for the first time ever, at least in our nation's history, maybe there are other periods in history, but there was finally a period in which you had an extremely large group of young people who didn't necessarily have a specific role in society. And suddenly you had pop culture and cruising and going to the burger joints and youth culture, because prior to that, if you were a teenager, you were either chained to a machine or helping mom and dad pay the rent or working the fields.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you automatically had a place in society and a job to do. You didn't have time to think about, I'm young.
No.
And so that's kind of where the whole idea of generational gap came from, was the fact that the baby boomers were that generation that actually got to have a full childhood, whereas their parents, children of the Depression, children of the war, didn't really have a childhood. And then prior to that, the 20s, it was kind of a wealth thing. If you were wealthy, you got all that luxury. But a lot of people were, as I said, working nonstop in factories.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really where generational studies came from, was that first generation gap of the children of the 50s being so thoroughly different than their parents. And I think that a certain number of them, the flower children, especially on the coasts, really started, I don't know, they made that their own identity. It was very important to them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was this weird phase in the 80s and 90s where it was very important they differentiate themselves from their loser kids.
Yeah.
And that's where Gen X kind of popped up. So, yeah, that's so in a sense, yeah, ultimately what you're saying is, fuck sociology. Hey, Belton, how you doing? Oh, we were going to talk about something. Oh, well, it's too late now. Oh, I was going to bring up the Villaboa case. What I really think happened there, as far as the abduction. But we've been on for a while. I'm not sure I want to get into that now. That's a pretty long story. But next time you're on earlier, and I'm not pretending to be a skeptic. Or when I am pretending to be a skeptic, I'll tell you what really happened, opposed to when I'm out of the alien suit and just say, look, no, it was aliens. Or I'm out of the human suit and I'll just say it's aliens, don't worry about it. Okay, so Common American. Okay, I like Common America. Okay, let's see.
Well, earlier, Owen, I think, was asking about Common Rider, if you had seen it.
A little bit. I tried checking it out. Remember, was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And then the shit hit the fan with your family.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get into that. You guys have heard enough of how rough things have been lately for us internally, as well as the stuff we're all dealing with outside.
Mm-hmm.
But I will leave you with this one bit of advice before we call it a night. If you've got a piece of media you love, a book, a movie, an anime series, buy it on hard copy. Get the Blu-ray, buy the book. Do not trust the digital version. Right now, we're living in a time where anything can be canceled tomorrow. And maybe we'll leave this dark age in a year. Maybe we'll leave it in a decade. Who the fuck knows? But wouldn't it be better to know that you have a hard copy of those books you love, rather than trust that Sony and Disney are going to eventually see sense, and or Simon and Schuster decides to stop censoring things, or I have no particular attachment to Splash, but let's say you really love Splash, you probably want to buy a hard copy of that right now. So that's my advice to you today. You want to leave anything?
No. Sorry, I'm
fading. You want to say something like boobs are wonderful, or?
Oh, I have been saying that.
Well, they're wonderful. Okay.
Especially mine.
Oh, and yes, especially yours. And one more thing.
I'm not arrogant.
One more thing, Elton. Well, you have the right to be arrogant. The art you've been sharing for your Pacifica comic looks pretty damn good. All right, everyone. This was totally unplanned and wasn't supposed to happen, but we gave you a show anyway.
Hope everyone has a great and safe evening.
And if you have any questions for the aliens, send them to Kat or me.
Yes, please do. Good night.